As a contactee over the years in regards to various, I mean, when I say contactee, I mean not only from other levels of existence, beings from other levels of existence and from other parts of the galaxy and beyond the galaxy, but also multi-levels of existence due to the nature of multi-dimensional reality. I also talk about, in a spiritual sense, contact from beings that are on the astral level, beings that are from levels of frequency bands that are not necessarily from other parts of the galaxy, but in a more spiritual sense, just across the nature of creation. What I've learnt to actually to nurture and to be a big part of my life is discernment, and discernment in regards to what is what could be considered to be a potential fake contact with something that's actually more technological, or something that's actually very spiritual, or something that's advanced in regards to technology, especially with craft that I've seen in the skies, in the night skies, and in also the dawn skies. And I'm going to give you some examples of some craft that I have seen all around the world, and some stories about craft that I have seen. And to me, the technological aspect of those craft and what I've seen, it all feels to me like it's defence contracting, American defence contractors basically getting hold of Nazi tech. And let me go, and other times in regards to discernment, in regards to beings that I've experienced and beings that I've had interactions with, I've discerned have been from an astral level, or from a level of existence that's beyond the five senses that our bodies can decipher and decode. But I will go right now into a situation where I will tell you about my experiences with advanced craft that I believe to be all constructed in this dimension, in this reality, by North American defence contractors, and my perceptions of where that technology has come from and how it's being used today. And look, there's so much information on the internet about this. Ben Rich, Skunk Works, that's a really classic example of someone who came forward and said, look, we've got the technology to take ET home and the craft to do it, back in what, the 90s. And he came out and said that at a little gathering of press journalists. He wasn't pulling people's legs. But anyway, my first time I ever saw a craft, in my memory, was a video I've done in Motueka, where I was lying on a road, on an abandoned road before it became, or not an abandoned road, on a country road, before it became what would be 20 years later when I was down there for a visit, what became to be basically suburbia. But at the time I was lying on the road, in the end of the late summer, early autumn, and the road was still really hot, because the Motueka days, top of the South Island, you had, before we had geoengineering in this part of the world, we had the road would be baked hot by the sun, obviously, on it, and it was so warm I just lay on it in the middle of this road, deserted road, country road, lay on the road, and it was just so warm. I was like, oh, this is wonderful. And I was just lying on the road at night time, early night. I put this quartz crystal shard over my third eye, and someone asked me why I did this, and the answer is simply, I just did it because it felt like it was I wanted to do it, just to see what happened. And I just felt, oh yeah, I'll put it here, just see what happens. And the moment I put it on my third eye, the moment I did that, I saw when you have a pebble on a flat pond surface and you skim it, and it skims across the water, and you have this ripple effect, boom, boom, it bounces across the water, and you see the reverberations of the stone as it hits the water and bounces off. I saw a triangular shaped craft come across the sky, and it was super low. It was like maybe above my head, maybe between 300 to 400 feet, and I saw a triangular shaped craft come, what I believe to be coming into this frequency band, and it skimmed across the sky like a stone would, and it tracked. As it tracked across the sky, I could see the reverberations of the craft's shape come across the sky, boop, 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 and then it soared over my head silently and moved towards what would be the east coast of the South Island, towards the Kaikoura Range and towards Nelson region, and just silently moved away. I pulled the crystal off my third eye and went, okay, and I got up and I quietly began to walk back to my flat where I was living in Motueka at the time, thinking like, fuck, alright, that was interesting. So that was the first time I saw a craft, and at the time I really believed that I didn't know where it came from. Now, I didn't think about aliens, I didn't think about extraterrestrials, I didn't think about extraterrestrial technology. I wasn't that conscious enough to understand the nature of this craft and where it could have come from. My first thought right away was like, I don't know where that came from and what it was. I got no idea. Of course, in my mind, due to the social conditioning I've had over the years, my first thought initially was aliens, right? Due to the nature of the conditioning I had over the years from film, from entertainment, from people that I was reading books about at the time. This is in the early 90s, before the internet became massive, and I thought to myself, okay, that was just crazy, wild, crazy. Cut to 1997, I was working in Port Douglas on the Thin Red Line, the movie The Thin Red Line, as an extra for about 3.5 months. And I met some amazing people on that movie, had the best winter of my life in 1997. The best winter of my life. It was incredible, an incredible experience to be in that small little resort town with so many extras, so many film crews, so many people working there at the same time that I met and made incredible connections with. Now, at the wrap party for that movie at the Sheraton Hotel at the golf course, where we had the wrap party, me and some friends were up all night, went for a swim in the ocean, and got out of the ocean, and then we heard the party was continuing at one of the producers' locales, who had this. One of the producers lived was staying at this resort, sort of like an estate, really, above the harbour in Port Douglas, out facing towards the Great Barrier Reef, and this beautiful homestead, beautiful, massive mansion. So me and some friends decided to go to the mansion and just invited ourselves onto the land, came onto the property, and we were all kind of intermingling with actors and with crew, and we thought, you know what, this is boring as fuck, let's just go sit on the lawn and talk shit and hang out and smoke cigarettes and drink some piss, and whatever else we were doing over there at the time. So we went down to the lawn. There's about 12 of us all lying around talking just before sunrise. So the sun was rising in the east over the Great Barrier Reef, and we were all just sitting around, lying around, just talking, blah, 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 blah. And I remember looking up into the sky, not towards the direct rising sun, but looking up into the sky and seeing a flash in the sky, like a flash in the sky. I said, hey guys, look at that! We all looked up together. There was 12 of us. We all looked up in the sky at the same time. Out of this flash came 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 triangular shaped craft, and they all moved in procession towards the horizon, towards the rising sun, and then stealthed out. They all stealthed out, and they just all cloaked out and were gone. And I thought, what the fuck? And I remember this cat called Ram Adamides, this 18-year-old kid who was just so conscious, so light years ahead in regards to his awareness of reality and the nature of reality compared to me, if you're looking at the situation. And he just quietly looked up and went, yep, they're out there. And we all looked at him and went, what the fuck? How calm is this guy? It was just like, oh, what the fuck? And at the time, I didn't know what it was. I mean, I really had no idea what I just saw. 10 craft coming out of a flash of light. Like it was like they literally had come from one dimension into this one and were moving towards a destination. Where that was, I have no idea. None whatsoever. And that was in far north Queensland in Australia. Completely like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And then in Canada, when I was in Canada, in August they had meteor showers. In August every year there was meteor showers. And I think it was the Perseid meteor showers. I'm not sure if it's a Perseid, but I think it might be the Perseid. There'd be meteor showers. And me and some friends used to go to Kitsilano Beach or go further down to Spanish Banks in Vancouver, and we'd lie on mats with candles and jars and look at the meteors coming in, like shooting stars across the sky. Wow, it's so crazy. One night I remember being out there with some friends, and we were all talking, and I looked out by myself and I saw amongst the meteor showers triangular craft moving that way, like sideways, that way and that way across the sky. And I was just like, has anyone else seen these? Hey guys, can you see those? And before they look up in the sky, they were all gone. I was like, alright, maybe I was just, once again, I thought to myself, well, okay, no idea what that was. You know, my conditioning says it was aliens, but I don't know. Coming back to this country, Aotearoa, New Zealand, where I live here in Berempore in Wellington. Excuse me. Often I go outside my deck, which is just behind this camera. I go out my deck at night time when I was smoking cigarettes at the time. I go out on the deck there, sitting on one of those chairs, which is behind this camera, on my deck, and look at the sky. Just look at the sky and smoke cigarettes and just sit there and just look at the sky at night time. If I've been out at a bar or a club, I'd come home late at night, I'd be sitting out there smoking a cigarette, drinking a tea, looking at the sky. And one night I remember standing outside, putting a cigarette out, about to come inside, and I saw over the horizon towards Korori, over the hills in Mornington, which is above where I live in the hills, as the hills roll up and over towards the west coast of the lower North Island here. I saw an enormous, and I mean it would have been the size of a football field, triangular shaped craft moving across the sky. And the only reason why I saw it is because it blocked out the stars as it was moving across the sky, and it was so big. I just cracked up laughing and thought, like, look at you guys. How blasé is that? And it was cruising across the sky, slowly moving across the sky towards the north. It's just like, that's just wild. Look at that. I just thought, you know what? They're out there. This is my feeling once again. I had no real understanding of the fact that this technology could be in the hands of humans on this planet, being utilised by humans on this planet for whatever reason. And then about 6 months ago, I had an experience at Hokia Beach, which is on the beach that on the west coast from the little small country town called Levin in the Horowhenua district in Lower North Island of New Zealand, of the North Island, Te Ika Maui. My friend Grange and I he was working on a property in Levin, and we had parked up our vans on the beach and had a fire on the beach, and we were sitting down talking around the fire, and I need to go for a piss, so I got up behind the vans, went for a walk behind the vans, and we're standing there looking at the sky as you do, taking a piss. And I saw what was initially, to me, it looked like a rubber band being pulled taut. And it was blue. It was a blue rubber band being pulled taut. And I thought, what the fuck is that? And it snapped back to its position at this end of the rubber band. It snapped back, and then a triangle appeared, a blue triangle. And the triangle was almost transparent, and I could almost see through it. At least when I initially saw it. And then the rubber band once again pulled in front of itself, in front of the craft. This blue light pulled out in front of the craft, and then the craft snapped into the light and was gone. It was gone. What the fuck was that? I said to Grange, did you see that? And he's like, see what? I was like, oh, okay, well, alright. And that for me was one of the, once again, it's the same shaped craft. But due to the nature of my research and my understanding through people like Daniel Lynch, dark journalist, Dr. Joseph P. Farrell, and various other people that have investigated the UFO file, my understanding began to broaden my interpretation of what these craft could possibly be. For me, it really feels as though this is hidden tech. And if I look back at Dr. Farrell's books on Nazi International and the survival of the Nazi Party, especially with Hans Kammler, Kammler Stab and his Wunderwaffe labs, the secret tech labs in what is now called Czech Republic, Pilsen Skoda factory, and Thuringia as well, where the bell was, the Nazi bell was. The more I look into this, the more I feel into this situation, the more I feel into what I've seen, it really feels to me, and I look into the patterns for aircraft that the Nazis were building at the end of the Second World War, the flying wings, the saucers. The more I look into this, and the more I realise that things like, in historical context, like George Patton in the Third Army was racing towards Berlin, but made a beat off towards Czech Republic to Pilsen, and then of course got tons and tons of patents and paperwork and whatever else from this Wunderwaffe secret lab that Hans Kammler had left there for Patton to find. What was the information that the Americans found there in what's become Czech Republic? What do they find there in these factories, in these installations? What did they find there? What was the I mean, when I look at the situation, the fact that maybe there was a bargain made between the Americans and some members of the Nazi Party so they could survive and get away, use rat lines through the Vatican to South America and Spain, and then get over there and survive and continue their research. What did the Americans get from that? What did they get? Project Paperclip. What did the Americans get from that as well that we don't know about? What technology did they use or find? And I look back at the Nazi Party and the Abernare, I think it's I got that wrong. The word, the occultists, the members of the Black Sun, Abernare, I can't say it right. I think I got that one wrong. But the members of the Black Sun, the SS, the occult members of the Black Sun, they were so heavily involved in looking for secret tech, looking through Vedic texts, looking through ancient Mesopotamian texts, Tibetan texts, looking for hidden tech, looking for ways to find and discover how ancient civilizations were building craft that today we would think would be extraterrestrial. But if you look back at history, if you look back at Edgar Cayce's work, and this is one of the things for me with Dark Journalist, the way he's presented information and through historical sense, Edgar Cayce's readings on Atlantis. If you look at Edgar Cayce's readings on Atlantis, you see that he talks about ancient tech that can fly through mountains. Craft that are flying, that are powered by the two-eye crystal, which is basically a zero-point energy, by the sounds of things, a global zero-point energy system that revolved around this power crystal that was on Atlantis at the time. And with craft that were flying, like Vimanas in the Vedic texts, that were flying all around the world and intergalactically and interdimensionally, and that these people, this advanced technology, this advanced society, Atlantis, back in its heyday, were interacting with beings from across all levels of existence and parts of the galaxy and beyond the galaxy. There was this open connection, open societal connection between these beings, because they all could relate to each other due to the nature of the density. It wasn't as dense as it is today. And there was this, in the Golden Age, there was this connection between many levels of existence and shared tech probably as well. So when we think about these craft being extraterrestrial or alien, to me it seems ridiculous that our hidden history, our true history, that on Atlantis, at some point in Atlantis, probably for thousands of years, the technology was there for us in our golden age state. For humans to be able to interact with other humans from across the galaxy, other humans from across outside the galaxy and beyond the galaxy, and other beings that are humanoid but not human at the same time, and share that tech. So why would it be that the craft that we see are extraterrestrial, flying by interdimensionals and extraterrestrials? Why wouldn't it be, as Daniel Lynch said, and Dark Journalist, who's Daniel Lynch's Dark Journalist, I should say, as he says, why wouldn't that X-Tech, that hidden technology from Atlantis, from the Vedic texts, from the Nazi Party, why wouldn't that be carried through today and be hidden and utilised by a small faction of people who would employ the defence contractors to continue that process of making those craft in order for their own breakaway civilization to be able to go wherever they choose to in the galaxy and beyond the galaxy and through time itself, right? Why wouldn't they do that if they could? If they wanted to remain in control, if they had help, and if they were still interacting with interdimensional beings from other levels of existence, other parts of the galaxy, and weren't telling us about it, that's the ultimate level of control. The ultimate level of control, and that's their breakaway civilization. But to me, when I see craft like that, and they're all the same shape, they're all the same kind of roughly size, right away I think mass produced is the first thing I think of. And I think in regards to the tech, I really feel as though these craft aren't flown by greys from Zeta Reptilia or future humans on a different timeline. They're not flown by Nordics or Reptilians or by other beings from other parts of the universe or the galaxy or multidimensional existence. To me, they're flown by humans. And that tech is simply tech that's been taken and secretly been back engineered, created and shared potentially with the surviving members of the Nazi Party and with the Americans and whomever else. And this breakaway civilization goes beyond borders, and it's international. And they have all created this tech for whatever reason. You know, there's many theories about why they've created this tech, and they're living in this breakaway civilization where and they're probably existing in other parts of the galaxy and within the solar system. So for me to see these craft and think, oh, they're extraterrestrials, no, not at all. No, my feeling is it's totally based here, and that tech is tech that's either been shared between the Nazi Party and the Americans, the CIA and other intelligence agencies, or other deep levels of intelligence within or beyond the governmental structure and military, or it's advanced tech from our ancient past brought into the present day, and it's basically been utilized as it was back in the day when it was first created. Now, for me, also in 2020, I started one of my friends I used to work with got me into Stephen Greer's CE5 Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind protocols. I joined a group here in Wellington, and I began to practice with the group the CE5 protocols. And I had some pretty wild experiences. Like, it felt like to me it was a form of remote viewing. When you vector out your consciousness within a group setting together, you vector out your consciousness from your torsion field that you create together in the group, in a circle. You create this torsion field and you vector out into the solar system and then beyond the solar system, and then you vector back in again if you see any craft or or you go to a planet where you see other beings, and you vector back to where you are and you show them the location where you are, and often they'll come to you and say, hey, how you doing? How's it going? What's happening here? Have a bit of an interaction. The craft that I saw, all the craft that I saw when I was practicing this by myself, after I'd left the group, or with the group, all the craft that I saw weren't triangular shaped craft. They were often looked like suns, blue suns, orange suns, yellow suns, hovering, pulsing craft, like craft, like. When I say craft, I mean craft not in the conventional sense. I mean craft in regards to it looked like. When I'm trying to, in my lexicon, trying to find a way to explain what I saw. But to me, it felt like it was just purely consciousness. Like these beings were so advanced in regards to the nature of their understanding of reality and their abilities, that it wasn't actually them in a craft. It was their consciousness projected out into the solar system, into the deep galaxy, into deep space, from wherever they were occupying in regards to their planet or their moon or their station, wherever they were. They were projecting out their consciousness across this vast distance to meet me, to meet us. And then they would come into the space where we were, whether it be outside or inside, and meet us there. and they'd been invisible to our five senses, but you could totally feel the presence of something around us. Or if I close my eyes and my third eye was open, I can visualize these beings being in the room with us or being around me. And so I had many experiences where I had flashbulbs experiences, which is where, according to Dr. Greer's protocols, when you vector back into your body again from wherever you've gone to, a flashbulb is like a drone craft that flies through this night sky and flashes like a flashbulb going off. And it's an acknowledgement. I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here. And many times when I've practiced within the group setting, I have seen hundreds of these things. There was a time when we had a group sitting in a place in a range of a regional park called the Aorangis in the Wairarapa. I hired a hut there for a weekend, and we had the group come together at the hut and work, do the processes together, the protocols together at the hut. We had some pretty spooky, crazy, wild experiences. And one of those experiences was we were outside on a hilltop practicing the protocols, and our coordinator Margot, who was deeply psychic and incredibly powerful in her ability to take information and also to perceive beyond the five senses. When we were practicing, she said, okay, the ET's here, it's coming, they're just arriving here, go out and feel into the space around us and go out and interact with these beings that are here. And as I turned to my left, as she said that, there was a big pine tree to the left of me, a huge pine tree. And I could see a stealthed out egg-shaped craft dropping down behind the pine tree. I was just like, oh, ET is really here. And this craft came down, and I watched my friend Fraser get up from his seat and walk up towards where the craft had landed. I was kind of like standing there watching everyone part off and go their separate ways, thinking like, where do I want to go? I just stayed where I was, and I watched everyone walk off and have their own personal experiences. I watched my friend Fraser walk up the hill towards where this craft had landed. And I watched him walk, and I was sort of not too far behind him, but I watched him. I was kind of at a distance, maybe about 200 meters behind him, and it's dark, it's nighttime. I stopped and watched him walk up, and he walked up the hillside. I saw him walk up the hill, and then suddenly kind of stop and stand there, and I waited for a couple of minutes, and I watched his head turn to the right. And I thought, I have to go and ask him what happened. And I walked over to where he was. I said, and I walked up quietly behind him and said, hey bro, are you okay? He's like, holy shit. I said, what? He said, like, I walked up the hillside, he said, got within about 15 feet of the hedgerow line of this, where the bush became, it was a clearing, there was a bush hedgerow around next to the pine tree. He said he got to within about 10 feet of the hedgerow, had to stop because he heard footsteps across the grass. And he said he stood there as he listened to the footsteps walking across the grass, and he said the footsteps stopped about 3 or 4 feet to his right hand side, and he was standing there staring into space at what was space in front of him, and he knew someone was there. He was just like, I'm just standing here and someone's right there to my right. We stood there together, their hearts completely open, because with the process of the CE5 network group protocols, you're focusing your energy into your heart chakra space, and you're moving into that space and moving into connect with levels of existence from there, so that the energy that you put out there, you receive back, the resonance you receive back in regards to the connections with the beings, right? So we're standing there, both of us, the hearts blazing open. We can totally feel something was right there. And my initial feeling was Nordic. There's a Nordic standing there. There's a Nordic being there, cloaked out, standing there looking at us. And I quietly did my thing for about 5 minutes, thanked for the experience, and I walked away back to my seat. And then we all came together and we had various stories of interactions. Some people had verbal interactions, others had feelings. And the experience of having this is quite different than seeing a triangular craft. This is more visceral in the sense that you actually are having an experience with these beings that are here. They're here, but they're cloaked out because they don't want to scare the shit out of us. It's introductions, it's meeting these beings. on a level that they can know that we can feel comfortable having these experiences with them. And it was quite wild. Very different experience. Very different experience. And then when we went back to the hut we were staying in, everyone left apart from about 4 or 5 people who were staying at the hut. That night we sat outside drinking tea, looking at the sky, and there were flashbulbs everywhere. Everywhere. Like they were just watching us, interacting with us everywhere. Quite a different experience, because we knew that this experience was due to the nature of our resonance and our connection to these beings. It was a very different feeling. That night, I decided for some reason I was drawn to stay in the hut kitchen in front of the fireplace, an open fireplace. I put my mattress out in front of the fireplace, next to the windows. I was lying down on the mattress in front of the fireplace, and I felt a being come through the door and was standing there looking at me. And all I could feel was this gentle pressure of loving, healing communication, like, I'm right here, it's okay. It read my etheric field. Read me, and it just basically sent me initially I could feel the awareness of our connection, and I began to pass out and go to sleep. I felt like I was floating on a cloud. I went down, and I just went to sleep, and I woke up next morning and wow, a being came into the space where I was, and just like a Reiki healing, just healed me, loved me, thanked me, and then I went to sleep. It was beautiful, truly beautiful experience. Since that experience and my practicing of the C5 protocols, and may I say I practice them also under other levels of altered states of consciousness, which apparently I've been told we don't do, but I have, in regards to taking plant medicines and practicing this protocol. And I feel comfortable doing it, but I wouldn't recommend it. But I feel comfortable doing it. I've had experiences where I've been sitting down in front of a fire at Makara Beach, where I love to go. My favourite location in Wellington, to have solitude and time out with nature and to connect with nature. I have had experiences where I've been sitting down in front of the fire, looking at the sky, and I've had a pretty clear, discerning, clear audience message: put the fire out and go home. And when I've done that, put the fire out, and I began to go home, gone around the rocks, around the inner harbour, back to my vehicle in the car park. I've gone towards my vehicle, and I stopped in the car park and looked up and seen 2 craft doing this little dance in the sky, and then gone. It's just like, so you wanted me to come and see that, and it's beautiful. It's a connection that you have there, and that's a very different experience in my experience, to seeing a craft in the sky that to me looks technologically built here, and it feels a lot more, in my perception, it feels a lot more removed from that heart space. It feels more technological, it feels more cold, it feels a whole lot less connective in that sense. So for me, my experience with the craft and beings that occupy this consciousness and these craft is a very different one, when it generates and it communicates with my heart chakra space. And that to me is the nature of the difference between beings that are more intellectual and more beings that are more heart-centered. And there's a resonance, it's obviously a resonance connection there for me. And the craft that I've seen that are more resonant with my heart chakra space, like I said before, feel like they're more like a remote viewing consciousness experience. And I had one crazy, wild experience in 2020, where I took a small amount of Wiriroa psychedelic truffles, which are native to this country, and native to the lower half of the North Island of New Zealand. Actually, only a very small area of this country, of this island, where you can find them. I took a very small dose, not a huge, just enough to tweak my consciousness. And I went to a place called Wrights Hill in Karori, where I go quite often for nights by myself and would go up there to practice the C5 protocols without taking the mushrooms and with them. I'd go up there by myself and just vector out the deep space, have a communication, come back into my body again, bring my consciousness back into my body again, have a flashbulb in the sky, thank you, good night, and I'd leave. And if I felt a presence, I'd stay there, and I'd meditate in my heart space and connect with my heart space, and I would thank for the experience, and I would leave. But one night I had an experience where I was up there doing my thing and laughing. I had this over-exuberant joy. I was practicing this process, the CFI process, while having my consciousness altered slightly. And in that joy, I went out into deep space and I saw a light blue, looks like a sun, craft in space, in deep space, outside the galaxy. And I had this clairaudient message given to me in deep space: go home and go to bed. And I came back in my body again. I was like, started cracking up laughing, like, go home and go to bed? What's it? It's 8:30 at night? I mean, what, are you kidding me? Like, all right, sure, no worries. So I came back in my body again, laughing all the way home, drove home, really excited about going to bed, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Got home, crawled into my bed here, laughing, and I was in bed. I'm going to go to sleep. Went, crawled into bed, hopped into bed, put my duvet over me, and then I began to feel this pressure push up over my duvet and literally push against my body. So it was pressure. There's actually a force moving up my, not slithering, but moving up my body. And the moment I began to feel it, and this is not the first time I had an experience, I've had interactions with beings non-physical that I can't perceive with my 5 senses come into my space, especially when I'm on my bed. I had sleep paralysis before many times. I've had visitations from succubuses when I was very young. It's another story. And I've had nightmarish experiences with entities from the astral plane visiting me while I'm in bed trying to sleep or asleep. But this was very different. This was a loving, peaceful, connective feeling, and this being moved up my body. As it did, it read my etheric field again, it read my etheric field in deep space and read my etheric field again. And as it moved up my body, I wasn't asleep and I wasn't quite awake. I was in this transition phase. As it moved up my body, it began to read my etheric field, and it manifested itself in my bed, in bed with me, and manifested in a physical form. It sounds fucking batshit crazy, but it happened. It manifested as a physical form of a woman that I was deeply enchanted by, and I loved it and was sexually attracted to in a huge way. And proceeding of the next how many hours, the intimate connection I had with this being took me to a place of deep integration, deep tantric connection, and multiple orgasmic experience. That sounds completely crazy, and I know it sounds like I've made that shit up, but it happened. It happened. I was so tactile, I could feel everything. I could feel this being's orgasms, muscular spasms of the vagina that it created for itself. I could feel everything. I could feel every moan, every energetic impulse. I could feel the integration of my experience with this being as our 2 energetic fields in our bodies connected in this way. It was a multi-dimensional experience beyond any sexual experience I've ever had in my life. It was fucking nuts. It was nuts. And we went on for hours. I remember eventually going to sleep and this being dissolving in my bed, like it was literally dissolved. It dissolved. It was gone. I woke up next morning completely ecstatic. And the first thing that came to mind was that this being had come from a planet within the Cassiopeia star system. And I was like, wow, okay. So the integration was me integrating with this being on a level that was resonant DNA frequency band, to understand this being's existence, where it had come from, and it wanted to share that with me, and me to share with it the human experience that I've had and what it's like to have a human experience in a body like this. That was the nature of the connection. It was insane. It was crazy. It was wild, and it really happened. I'm not making this shit up. It happened. I wasn't tripping. I was, but I wasn't. That makes sense. I was on the way down. I was coming down. This whole thing happened while I was in a state of sobriety, and it also altered my consciousness in a way that took me to a place that wasn't ordinary everyday levels of consciousness. It was far more multidimensional in that sense. That was like I was experiencing multiple levels of existence and sensation and feeling and integration all at the same time. It was beautiful, incredible. And here's the craziest thing about this whole experience. The next night, it came back. It came back, and I was in bed, about to go to sleep, and I was straight. And it fucking scared the shit out of me, because I thought, what the fuck? And it's come back for more. And I quietly said, hey, listen, man, last night was amazing, beyond my wildest my wildest experiences and understandings. But this, right now, doing this again straight and doing this again right now is just too much. And it slowly backed off my body and was gone. It hasn't come back ever since. I've invited it back just to have the experience. I'm ready to have the integration again, but it hasn't come back. The experience, and that's the nature of the experience. Heart-based resonance with a more astral and dark, malevolent entity. It would come back like that. Wouldn't be no hesitations. You're a food source. It would come back like that. But this being, no, they understood, and integrated from the experience, and it was enough for it. So it moved back, and it was gone. And that's the level of the level and the nature of the connections that we can have as multidimensional beings with these beings from the heart resonance in deep space. So that to me is not a technological thing. That's a very different form of expression and understanding. That's an integrative experience. And I talked to my friend Tabash, who said to me, yeah, you had that experience, it was real, it's for real. But don't get caught up in it, because it's not. You're a multidimensional being, and now you understand that. You've had this experience, but you're still in a human body. Remember that. Don't get caught up in that experience and wanting to have it, because it also takes you on a very dangerous path as well, which I totally understand. And in another video, I will tell you about my experiences with succubuses, with astral entities, and sleep paralysis. But in this video, I want to concentrate on the idea of technological craft, but also the understanding that our abilities from our heart center, we can communicate with levels of existence and beings from across multidimensional existence, intergalactic experiences, if we choose to. But there's a difference between the craft that are built here and the craft, in my perception, that are flown by or flown or expressed as craft as a form of remote viewing from beings that resonate on levels that are so far advanced in regards to our perceptions of what our levels of awareness, and that level of heart space awareness compared to the intellect. Thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it. Matewa. I'll see you again soon.